This is Under Review, the show that talks about Colorado sports with some national sports stories as well. I'm Jordan Long. Now, for the Denver Broncos, I never thought it could get any worse for this team, but somehow it did. The Broncos are staring at 0-3. As you all know, I'm a Broncos fan, so I can say we are now 0-3. Last week, we really hit rock bottom with a 70-20 defeat. The 70 points is the most given up in franchise history and the second most points given up in NFL history. Heck, I wanted the Dolphins to get 73. They were in field goal range at the end of the game and said, hey, you know what? We're happy with 70 points. And they didn't kick a field goal to make it 73-20. So I guess that's okay. But the thing is, though, this wasn't the worst defeat in Broncos history. I know it was 50 points, but it wasn't the worst. The worst came in 1963. That is 1963, when the Broncos lost to Kansas City in Week 1, and that was 59-7 or 52 points. So basically 2 points off the worst loss in franchise history. Anyway, it was an embarrassing game last week against Miami. I really put the blame on the defensive players and the defensive coaches. Yes, Sean Payton, as we know, is the head coach, and the buck stops with him. Was I angry? Of course I was. I wanted defensive coordinator Vance Joseph fired. I mean, his defense gave up 726 yards. If you look at it, Miami was pretty even when they scored. 5 passing touchdowns and 5 rushing touchdowns. It felt like the defense flat out quit on him. There were players where they could have tackled the runner in the open field and just stopped. Basically, that told me, hey, they quit on Vance Joseph. Other times, it was just bad tackling, but at least they gave effort. There were times where there wasn't any effort. But in the second half, you could tell this team stopped giving effort on defense, and you never want to see that. Also, I really look at who they were missing, and they were missing their leader, safety Justin Simmons, on defense. He was clearly missed. I'm sure Simmons would have gotten in the face of his teammates and told them what to do. It may have been a loss with Simmons, but not as bad. They wouldn't have given up 70 points. Maybe 45, I should say in the 40s, not 45, but 40s, or maybe even 49, but definitely not 70. So looking at that, there wasn't a team leader keeping the defense accountable, I should say. Many head coaches would have fired their defensive coordinator right off the bat. Well, Sean Payton said he won't fire Vance Joseph. I don't get it, but Joseph is lucky. Look at how bad this defense is after last week. I know we're 3 games in, but let's look at their numbers. These numbers don't surprise me. They are last in the league in yards given up and rushing yards and scoring defense. So you're last in yards given up, rushing yards, and scoring defense. The defense allows 458.3 yards per game. Teams rush for 177.7 yards per game. Denver has given up 40.7 points per game. But hey, you know what? That 40.7 points per game is what happens when you allow 70 points in a game. The only area where they're not the worst is passing yards. Denver is actually 29, so you're doing well in passing yards, permitting 280.7 yards per game. So let's go over these numbers again. Last in yards per game, allowing 458.3 yards per game. Worst run defense at 177.7 yards per game. And dead last in scoring defense, giving up 40.7 points per game. So that's 40.7 points per game. At least defenses aren't passing on this team. I mean, they are, but they're not the worst, as they give up 280.7 yards per game. So that's 280.7 yards per game, which is 29th. The other problem with the Broncos is they haven't brought pressure. Teams protect the quarterback. Even when we try, they have the right personnel. That's the offense has the right personnel to not allow the Broncos to even hit the quarterback. Denver has only sacked the quarterback 4 times. You look at turnovers, just 1 pick. Awful numbers. So really, the defense is the problem. The only good news, if you're looking at it, is that they're only 3 games into the season. So there's plenty of time to turn this around. If you look at it, the next 2 weeks are winnable. You play against the Bears this Sunday and next week against the New York Jets. If Vance Joseph and his defense can play well and make adjustments, they could win both games. And then you're going into the Kansas City game at 2-3 and in the thick of the playoff race. If you lose the next two, so if you're looking at 0-5 or even if you win one and you're 1-4, it could still be time to let Vance Joseph go. I'm not sure if Sean Payton, if or when he will make changes, if that will happen. But it's not time to panic yet because you're only 3 games into the season. Still too early to panic, so there is time for them to actually be better. We're going to move on to the Colorado Rockies. Going into the season, I didn't think the Rockies would be a great baseball club. They didn't do anything in the offseason that actually excited me. Well, with 3 games left in the season as they play Minnesota for their final 3 games of the season, which starts tonight, they stand at 58-101. So 58 wins and 101 losses. The 101 losses are the most in franchise history with 3 games left in the season. And we know the franchise history goes all the way back to 1993. Before this year, they have lost 90 games or more 8 times. The worst before this year was 2012 when they had 98. A lot of people thought that year they would lose 100, but this year they certainly did. Now, they are the worst team in franchise history. The Rockies this year, I figured, would be one of the best hitting teams in the league. That is Major League Baseball. We know Coors Field, where they play, is a hitter's ballpark. The offense hasn't been the problem. They're 16th in batting average at .249. So 16th in Major League Baseball with a batting average, and that is team batting average of .249. At home, and this is where I wasn't worried about them this year, their batting average is 5th best in baseball at .267. So 5th best at home at .267. Now on the road, it doesn't surprise me. They can't hit the ball. They're the 2nd worst team when it comes to batting average on the road. Their batting average away from Coors Field is .228. Now, I thought maybe their strength was going to be driving the ball over the wall. Well, that didn't happen this year. And the reason why I thought it was their strength was because of Coors Field. And they're 28th in the league in home runs as they have hit 155. So really the offense has struggled at times. As we all know, pitching is what carries the team. The Rockies are actually in a familiar spot with one of the worst pitching staffs in Major League Baseball. They're dead last. Their total team ERA, and this is their total team ERA, is 5.64. And honestly, that's dead last in the league. The next team ahead of them is Oakland, and the Athletics, who are ahead of the Rockies in terms of team ERA, they're at 5.49. When it comes to pitching at home, and they are last in that too. So you can see that pitching has been a problem. Their ERA at home is 6.09, which is last in Major League Baseball. On the road, hey, it's not that bad. They're only 28th at an ERA of 5.18. So you're looking at it at home, they can't pitch with a 6.09 ERA, but at least on the road, it's a little better at 5.18 ERA. It just shows you the pitching as a whole isn't getting it done. When it comes to the starting pitching, manager Bud Black can't even trust his pitchers. Starters aren't setting the tone with an ERA of 5.93. Now the bullpen, he can't trust either with an ERA of 5.32. So you look at it, starters have a 5.93 ERA, the bullpen has a 5.32 ERA. Both of these, and it shouldn't surprise you, and as a thing with the pitching, those are dead last in Major League Baseball for your starters and your bullpen. Now the Rockies will finish the season on Sunday against Minnesota. Once that game is over, the Rockies, and I've said this for many, many years, they will need to make changes. One has to start with the manager. Manager Bud Black has 1 more year left on his contract. General manager Bill Schmidt has a choice to make. He is the one who signed Bud Black through the 2024 season. Bill Schmidt could fire Bud Black, and honestly, I would understand. He is the manager of the ball club, I should say, of the Colorado Rockies, and they're not a great team. Then again, it isn't all his fault. Bill Schmidt and the rest of the front office have really set him up to fail because they didn't sign anybody in the offseason. What I mean by that is Bill Schmidt and his staff haven't gone out and signed free agents to improve the ball club. So it's really on him. Then again, look at Bud Black's record as manager of the Rockies. He has been with the Colorado Rockies since 2017. Of course, we know Bud Black took the Rockies to the playoffs in 2017, and they lost in the wild card game. In 2018, they went to the National League Division Series and lost. That's it. 2 playoff appearances since 2017 for Bud Black. Bud Black's record is disappointing. It's, get this, 474 wins and 554 losses. A winning percentage of .462. So again, he has 474 wins as manager of the Rockies and 554 losses. So basically, if you look at it, 474 wins and 554 losses for a winning percentage of .462. Bill Schmidt could bring in his own guy, that is. So if he fires Bud Black, he can bring in his own guy, whoever that might be. And I have 2 that kind of make sense. And honestly, if they fire him, it's not a long contract. All you have to do is pay Bud Black his salary next year. It isn't the worst idea. Now, the candidates that Bill Schmidt could talk to include Joe Madden and Joe Girardi. The thing I like about both of these candidates is they have managerial experience, I should say, and both have won the World Series. Girardi is a familiar face for the Rockies because he played for the franchise from 1993 to 1995. He was an original Rocky. The other option is for Bud Black to manage in the last year of his contract. If next year is worse, they can let him go for nothing. Schmidt and the rest of the Rockies front office will have a lot to ponder once the year is over. They will have to fix this team, and it could be a new manager, and that's what they should do, is get a new manager. But hey, if you don't sign free agents, this team is going to be the same next year. We're going to go on to my NFL picks of the week. Last week, I went 4-1. The first game is the Miami Dolphins versus the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are a 2.5-point favorite. I know the Bills are the better team, and the Dolphins look great against the Broncos, but I'm going with the Bills. Ravens versus Browns, and it's really a battle of the new Browns, which is the Cleveland Browns, and the old Browns, the Baltimore Ravens. But really, Browns versus Ravens. I'm going with the Browns are a 3-point favorite, but I'm going with the Ravens. Buccaneers versus Saints. The Saints are a 3-point favorite. I'm going with the New Orleans Saints. Commanders versus Eagles. I am going with the Eagles since they are a 5-point. They're actually an 8.5-point favorite. So if you look at the Commanders versus Eagles, the Eagles are an 8.5-point favorite as the Eagles win that football game. Seahawks versus Giants. The Giants are 1.5-point favorite on Monday Night Football, and I'm going with the New York Football Giants. My picks again, Dolphins versus Bills, Buffalo Bills. Ravens versus Browns, I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens. Buccaneers versus Saints, New Orleans Saints. Commanders versus Eagles, fly, Eagles fly, or should I say Philadelphia Eagles. Seahawks versus Giants, the New York Football Giants. I'm Jordan Long. Thank you for watching this edition of Under Review. Follow me on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now at SportsScoop1. Read my blog that I write Mondays through Fridays at sports-scoop.com. Thank you for watching Under Review. Have a great week, and I'll catch you next time. So enjoy your week and plenty of sports action this week, but I will catch you next time here on Under Review.